Gang, are you a fan of podcasts and Law & Order SVU? Well, I have the show for you. The seminal SVU podcast, Munch My Benson, is the twisted love child of co-hosts Adam Schwitters and Josh Dugan, celebrating the splendid and often wildly inappropriate lunacy found only on Law & Order SVU. Each week, Adam and Josh walk you through a random episode of SVU, all while sharing their smart and hilarious insight. Find Munch My Benson wherever it is you stream podcasts, or go to munchmybenson.com for more info. That's Munch My Benson. Let's get down. Attention Austin guitarists, are you in need of setup or repair on your axe? Well, I have the guy for you. That's Jason Swedberg over at J. Scott Luthery. Find him at J. Scott Luthery on Facebook. Gang, I've been taking my guitars to Jason for over 20 years, and not only does he do the best job, he's also got the best prices and the fastest service in town. That's J. Scott Luthery on Facebook or jason.swedberg@gmail.com. Gang, whether it's acoustic, electric, or bass, Jason Swedberg is your guy. Find him at J. Scott Luthery. Get your guitars fixed and let's get down.
And you may ask yourself, well, how did I get here?
It's time for How Did I Get Here? And now here is your host,
All right, hello, I'm Johnny. I'm your host. Welcome to the show. Oh, man, I hope you guys are doing all right. This has been an incredibly crazy couple of weeks, but hopefully a lot of us are waking up and getting hip to systemic racism and realizing that we all have to eradicate this from the inside. And it's up to all of us to come together as a country and vote people out of office that are still keeping this horrible system in place. Tear it down, build it back up with new people, with new ideas that accept all Americans as one. Yeah, it's been a crazy week. I want to thank everyone that reached out and shared the conversation that I had with my friend James Robinson, who reached out to me earlier this week and told me that he thought I should use my show as a platform to talk to my African-American friends in the Austin music community, maybe meet some new people, sit down and have conversations and talk about their experiences with racism and what they think we can do to eradicate it. They'll be coming. There's a lot more to come. I've booked a lot more. These shows are not numbered. I just kind of have these conversations with people. I put them out. They each have individual names. And I want to thank James for reaching out to me and talking to me about it and bringing people in like Bevis Griffin, a good friend of mine, and Brandon Temple. I'll be talking to him, be talking to Jonathan Horseman, a lot of different guys, and that'll be coming out. A lot of different guys and a lot of different ladies. I'm hoping to be talking to Jackie Venson and Tamika Jones as well, hopefully in the next week, and bring everyone's story to light so that we can all get on the same page and do what we can to eradicate systemic racism in the United States. Gang, I have a great show for you guys today. The Reverend Shawn Amos from the Reverend Shawn Amos and the Brotherhood is on the show today. We have a great conversation. Their brand new album, Blue Sky, is out now, wherever it is you stream and download your jams. The Brotherhood consists of legendary drummer Brady Blade, Christopher Thomas on bass, and Dr. Roberts on the guitar. So I got this request from a publicist to have this conversation with the Reverend Shawn Amos, and I went and checked out his music. I was blown away, started going through his stuff, and just found this incredible story. He has an incredible story. His mother was a very famous singer in the 50s named Shirley May. His dad is Wally Famous Amos from the Famous Amos Cookies. And as I started researching his stuff, I realized all this different stuff. Like, he made music, he made these like sort of Americana singer-songwriter albums in the late 90s, and then ended up leaving and going to work with Rhino Records and Shout Factory and producing records for Solomon Burke, Hart, all these different great people. And then he came back to this music, the blues, and sort of like infused what he had learned from his America singer-songwriter times and brought it into this blues thing, this new kind of blues thing. And it's really got an amazing reaction. I mean, this record, Blue Sky, is charted all over the place on the Billboard Blues charts, on the on the Apple Music, everywhere. It's getting amazing acclaim and amazing reviews because it is an amazing album. I have a great conversation with the Reverend Shawn Amos, and so without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with the amazingly talented and incredibly cool Shawn Amos. Let's get down.
Hard to fall in love when you're hurting from a lover. Hard to comprehend in the end. I'm faced with the facts that we can fall so
Nice to meet you.
You as well, man. You as well. Thanks for the time.
Yeah, so you're in Dallas?
Yeah, I'm north of Dallas in a little a suburb called Frisco.
Okay. All right, well, that's in your song, so now that makes sense to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You wrote this piece that's called Hiding in Plain Sight, and it's in your notes from the Rev section of your ShawnAmos.com. And it's very moving, and it's very honest because you didn't your experience is unique on yours, that you grew up in sort of a white neighborhood, and you talked a lot about that, which is pretty different, but there was a lot of blending in that you had to do, a lot of human compromising of your own self to fit in.
Yeah. I've only somewhat recently realized the extent to which I sort of went along with this sort of unspoken set of rules. You know, that if you are a black person who's going to I guess be lucky enough, chosen to be selected, luck into whatever, living into a largely white world. There's sort of a set of unspoken rules, that you have to sort of go by. And I quickly fell in line with that. I think to some degree, my mother, I was just talking with someone about this just a few minutes ago, that, I think to some degree, my mother and my father, supported that, because, the goal of certainly their generation was, to assimilate, to integrate, to fit in, and I think, and the easier way to do that, the easiest way to do it was to do it on sort of white people's terms. And so there's different levels of that, you know what I mean? Yeah, so I've realized in my, as I've gotten older, I tried to sort of undo my whitewashing that I wrote about, and try and uncover my blackness and what my blackness means to me, versus another, because my blackness is different than, a more urban version of blackness. I didn't grow up in the Bronx. I didn't grow up in Detroit. I didn't grow up, in all black neighborhoods. Yet I am black, and yet I have been, the subject of much discrimination over my life. And so, there's sort of the reckoning happens at multiple levels.
Yeah, it does. I thought that it was pretty amazing to talk about that, that it wasn't so much about being accepted as much as being understood, which is something that I thought I found eye-opening. You don't hear that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you want to be seen, right? I mean, we all want to be seen,
of course.
And I think that I think for a lot of white people who are insensitive to this matter, I think they presume that we are seen. What do you mean you're seen? We had a black president. Beyonce's the biggest star in the world. We have Oprah Winfrey. Kobe Bryant. Blah blah blah. Of course we see you. We celebrate you all the time.
Right.
We love Kanye. We love, whatever it is. And it's like that's not what it is. It's deeper than that. It's being understood. And not sort of making it easy to forgive past or current transgressions, because there's some totems out there of success in a predefined sort of play area, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think as I get older, I realize the importance of being understood and being seen, and how that is different than acceptance, because acceptance can happen with gritted teeth. It seems like understanding is a more of an unclenched version of that.
Totally. And it's interesting because we're the same age, and I was talking to my sister about this. You and I are relatively, like, I think we're a year apart. I was born in 1968.
Okay, yeah, 1967.
Yeah, and I was raised with a different sort of view that I didn't encounter. I didn't encounter racism until, like, I went to school. Until
where'd you grow up?
Well, I grew up all over the place, but I encountered the racism when I lived in Lake Tahoe in second grade. Like, I had never heard the N-word. I didn't know that was a word. And we didn't hang out with, my mom didn't have tons of African American friends or anything, but there was no distinguishing difference between humans.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, everyone was just people to me.
Sure.
And so I remember, it's, my experience is different. I feel like there are just a lot of people, even my own father, who just doesn't get it. It's pretty sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
That's why streets are burning,
Yeah, exactly.
Because a lot of people don't get it all these years later. It's, I don't know what it takes. Yeah. I'm heartened to some degree by the many people I've heard from, friends and fans and sort of just acquaintances who are younger, who are in their 20s, early 30s, and for them this is sort of the first wake up call they've had,
right?
And it's like, and you can see the lights coming on. Like, whoa! I got a call. I went to a rally on Friday in Dallas, and on my way there, I got a call from a good friend of mine who lives in Queens, who's 28, I guess, and he was so shook up, man. He literally just didn't get it until now.
Yeah.
And he wanted to learn a lot, and wanted to talk, and wanted to express himself, wanted to hear from me, and I'm seeing that a lot, with people who are just like, whoa, because we have the society, particularly in the last 10 years or so, that's so insulated, and it's social media focused, and so much of the energy is about putting yourself out there, putting this sort of curated, highly stylized version of yourself, and no one has been looking around. Because we're all looking down at ourselves in these mirrored phones, and I feel people are finally like the spell got broken a little bit.
Yeah.
Or the fever got broken a little bit. Hopefully it'll last. But I am heartened by that. And I do think we'll see if it translates into votes, and it translates into, engaging in a political process, which ultimately is the only thing that really matters in this country.
That really is, yeah.
It's we got to move from sort of the hashtags to actual activism and organizing. So love and action. That's what I keep saying to myself. Love and action. Love and action.
Yeah, and you have kids too, right?
I have 3 kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have my daughter. My oldest is 19, college student, freshman year, and I've got a son who will be 15 shortly, and another girl who is 11.
Okay. It's your oldest daughter that sings with you in some of those videos?
Yeah, she sings
great,
on
man.
Stranger Than Today, the opening track on the album. Is in the video with me. Yeah, I'm really that's a precious gift I got with her.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, dude, why did you move from LA to Dallas?
I got divorced.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right. I got divorced, and my ex-wife, her family is from here, and I'm a traveling musician, or at least I used to be until COVID.
Right,
so,
right.
I travel a lot, and so yeah, she she wanted to be closer to her family and have a little bit of a support group in her new, post-divorce life. And I supported that. And so, and I wanted to be near my kids, so I pulled up and I lived 10 minutes away from my ex-wife and my kids.
Beautiful. That's good, man.
Yeah,
Keeping the family together.
Doing what I can. I mean, it's a redefinition of family for sure.
Right.
I mean, that's funny. You're talking about black. I mean, it's so much. I mean, I don't know. I mean, divorce is so much of the American experience, but it's only a big part of the black experience as well. And I just and I was a product of that. I mean, my parents are divorced, and my father moved away. And that's such a common thing where you get divorced and the dad splits. And sort of reinvents his himself in some new family dynamic. I just I didn't like being married, but I love being a father. So
yeah,
I want to stay as engaged and as close to my kids as they'll allow me to be. So
yeah,
it was an easy choice to make. I mean, difficult in the execution of it, but an easy decision to make.
Yeah. I mean, definitely difficult in the execution of it, and I applaud anyone who takes on whatever challenge it was to move from your home.
Yeah, it's radical.
When I asked you that question because when I read that cookies and milk article that you wrote, which is absolutely fantastic as well.
Thank you.
Regardless of sort of the elements and some of the things that you were facing, it seemed like Los Angeles is in your blood.
Yeah,
like there's some romance in those words when you're talking about it.
Yeah, I didn't realize how much is in my blood till I moved here. Right? I mean, I didn't realize to what an incredibly, how deeply in my DNA, LA was, because I traveled a lot. I do travel a lot, and so I always like to think that I had a lot of sort of perspective on LA, and I actually didn't glorify it. I didn't romanticize it, and I was sort of not, part of that sort of stereotypical liberal snowflake, holier than thou.
Right.
LA's the center of the world. LA's the center of the world kind of shit that goes on in people's minds. But then I moved here. I'm like, oh fuck, I am like that. I am absolutely that person.
You can take the guy out of LA, right?
Oh my God. And just, yeah, man. I mean, like you talk about, just the quiet, judgment and holier than thou thing. And it was a wake up call for me, and there's lots of problems I have, with Texas for sure. But
yeah, I bet.
but at the same time, I can't. It is not as easy of a place to sort of paint with a broad stereotypical brush as it was before I moved here, and so it is more confounding than one would think, and it does have these, there's a tension here that is really the tension of America. I mean, it's like, because it's interesting, because Texas sits like right, it's where the West meets the South.
Yeah.
It's where, it's sort of like this, it's like right at this nexus of a lot of different, cultures sort of, becoming, moving from one thing into another thing.
Right.
And the tension that exists of, whether it's a white patriarchy and their fear of losing, centuries of dominance, or whether it is an emerging, sort of brown class of people, or whether it is, the gig economy. I mean, all these like challenges that are facing us, like this is sort of like ground zero for it in Texas in a lot of ways. And I live in a place, here where, I mean, the reality of it is that it's more diverse here in this, North Texas suburb than any neighborhood I lived in LA. Like when my whole life in Los Angeles, I was the only black dude in the room, like every time. And I was amongst all these sort of self-professed, white liberals who were,
right.
But I was the only, there's no one who ever looked like me, my whole life. And you walk around here and it's like, you could think you're in New Delhi, India, 1 minute, or you can think you're in Seoul, Korea, another minute. You can think you're in, Tijuana. I mean, it is a really mixed place, and it's mixed in a way that isn't kumbaya. I mean, it's tense. It's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Not everyone's not everyone's happy with the arrangement, And then you can see people like missing like the old days, and you can see people who are wishing, looking at the side of their eye, this and that person. And it's like that's the reality, that's sort of the rest. So I appreciate that part of it.
Yeah.
I really do. And I've never known, evangelicals and Jesus freaks, and I've never known, immigrants. I mean, it's like I'm in touch with, a wider variety of thought, in class here that I've ever been in touch with, in my life, and it's caused me to have to check myself, and in some really helpful ways.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. It's also funny because I'm in Austin and you're in Frisco. We might be in the same state, but might as well be in two completely different states. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, I recorded the album just in Wimberley.
That's what I saw. Where did you do that?
Blue Rock. It's a Blue Rock ranch. Blue Rock Studios in Wimberley.
Okay.
Lyle Levitt's done some stuff there. Ruthie, who was on the album, has done some stuff there. It's beautiful. Yeah, it's funny. I'd not been south of Austin before. And that hill country, man, is just really speaks to me. It's very similar to Northern California. It has like a very sort of like Napa Valley kind of vibe.
Yeah.
To it. The rolling hills and the rivers, and there's some wine that they grow there.
Yeah, it's the wineries now.
Yeah. But it was really like a really a introspective place. It was a perfect place for us to make the album. So we just holed up there and locked ourselves up for a week, and it was nice to have no distractions. It was nice to it was restorative, man. To sort of have a piece of Texas, that I could relate to in that way, just geographically, right? I mean, North Texas is so flat, which is part of like the psychological mind fuck for me. Right. For some reason, I associate flatness with barrenness and and sort of loss of everything. It's just flatness really does a number on my head. But the hills and the ravines there and the canyons and it's and just the greenery is really nice there, and it was helpful for my creative energy.
Yeah. How did you have the songs written when you went in, or did you guys write this? Like I want to clarify for people that are listening that it's the Reverend Shawn Amos and the Brotherhood, and the Brotherhood is Brady Blade, drummer Brady Blade, Christopher Thomas, the bass player, and your longtime guitar player Chris Dr. Roberts. It seems like you just call him Dr. Roberts.
Dr. Roberts, yeah. Chris is just. I feel like I just got to do that at some point, just to so let the record show something. Yeah.
Did you do you write these songs together, or do you?
Yeah, this album was a nice. It's been this sort of the next step in this evolution of my writing process and my deepening collaboration with Dr. Roberts. I've always been a solo writer. I mean, I've done up until now. I've had very few collaborative experiences as a writer. Because I always wrote from such a personal place and sort of a semi-biographical place, and there was just no room for anyone else in that process, and that really wasn't what it was about for me. I was very, writing for me has largely been about, an attempt. It's been self-exploration and attempt to figure stuff out. So, but starting with the last album we did, Breaks It Down. Doctor gave me a riff. He started getting in the habit of just sort of emailing me or little MP3 files of little riffs he was coming up with, and he'd been watching me for years at that point, so he sort of knew what I'd gravitate towards and the things I'd like to sing. So it's really nice. It's like a real gift to have someone sort of hand you something that is made for you.
Right.
What was like singing like a heavy metal riff or something?
Right. Yeah.
He took time to really think about what I would respond to, and so he sent me a lick, and that became a song called "Moved," which is on our last album. That's become far and away our most popular song, and it was a great collaborative experience. And so that got us both excited about doing it more. And so when I moved to Texas, I wasn't writing. I was just trying to figure out, put my life back together and adjust to this new reality of mine. And I was frankly pretty pouty about the whole thing. And so he was sending me little riffs, and they were just great gifts because it took the burden off of me to have to come up with a whole bunch of stuff from scratch. Because I think at the end of the day, for me, I consider myself mainly, a lyricist, above all else. And I'm limited musically, and I'm not in love with, the only instrument I'm in love with is harmonica, and so I
You can tell.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I can get on a guitar, just for purposes of, composing some crude, structure. But I'm not a guitarist. I'm not a pianist. I don't wake up and think about instruments. So these tracks he gave me were just really a great gift, and it allowed me to just write lyrics and to really, really go deep into lyric writing and to really craft words in a way that was. I was much more meticulous about what I wanted to say and writing and rewriting and just really thinking about, the structure of these songs. And it also freed me up to write things I might not have written otherwise because the music sort of led me in different directions. Right, it was broader than what I've written for myself. So it was great. And so that was the bulk. That's the bulk of that album. I mean, it also inspired me to write a couple songs myself. So there's a handful of songs I did write on my own, but the majority of the album are co-writes. Me and the Doctor, Chris Thomas, our bass player, he sent me a track. He wanted to get in on it, so he sent me a track, and that became I'll Be in Blues. And then I had a sort of a riff for like a New Orleans brass band kind of song, and so I went to some good friends of mine, the Mudbug Brass Band, and their band leader Tim Garnered helped me flesh out the music for that song. And
is that the last song on the record?
Yeah, Keep the Faith, Have Some Fun. Yeah,
beautiful song.
So the whole album, I mean, lyrically, I mean, musically, from I guess compositionally, arrangement, recording, the whole thing is really, a celebration of collaboration. And that's what the Brotherhood is to me. I mean, it's literally like I got surrounded by these people who could surround me in love and surround me with their own, skills and allow me to just sort of, have a safe space to go deeper into the things I'm good at.
Yeah. Yeah. And it feels like it's a real band. Like there's some videos of you guys playing together. There's some quarantine ones, which by the way are great.
Thanks, man. Those have been fun.
Yeah, man. You can tell you guys are having fun. Brady, I've been around a couple of times. He did some work with the Sexton brothers. Do you know Charlie and Will?
Oh, yeah,
Sexton?
Sure. Yeah, not personally, but I know the work he's done with them.
Yeah, and there was something I was actually talking to a friend of mine earlier, and I was like, weren't you there? I was like, I don't know. I mean, I know I've met him, and I was around him. I thought,
yeah, he's everywhere.
I think the world of him as a musician, man.
He's amazing, man. Yeah, he's so intuitive. I mean, he's just pure. I mean, it just comes out of him. He's just so, effortlessly and naturally talented.
Yeah,
it's pretty phenomenal. He's the most undisciplined person on earth.
Oh, really?
I call him the Keith Moon of roots rock drummers because he's just he's so kinetic and he's such a wild card. You just never know what you're gonna get, and he hates to. He hates to rehearse and he hates to play anything twice at the same time. And it's like, and as maddening as that is, it's part of the magic, And it's sort of like, it's like always flying without a fucking net with him. But that's what's great about it.
Well, he also seems like that's where he shines. Like there are just some people that are best in the moment, For sure. And CT's like that too. Chris Thomas, we call him CT, and he's a jazz player and and CT has played with Brady's brother Brian for many years, and Brian is funny because Brian's almost like they're like totally opposite sides of the same coin. Like Brian's very staid and very measured, and he's very much he's a very he travels with his own drum kit. He wants leave nothing to chance, but he's also very fluid and very intuitive and a wonderful improviser. And so the three of them. I mean, I haven't played with Brian, but the Blade brothers and CT, at their core, it's sort of a jazz thing, in that you allow space, you allow room for a conversation, and the conversation may be different in Austin on Tuesday night at the gig than it's going to be in Tulsa, Wednesday night at the gig, Yeah.
And so, and I had to really, it changed me because the old show I had, and with the old bands, I had a lot of hired guns, and people were coming and going, and I had to really create a very rigid sort of framework to make sure it was going to be reliable. And so there wasn't a lot of room for improvisation or a lot of room for sort of, magic to happen. It was a great show. And it was a really entertaining show. And I could, I went off the rails, in a hopefully fun way. But it wasn't a conversation. It was a very scripted sort of affair. But to go on stage or to go in the studio and not know what's going to happen, but know it's going to be really good, that was a different sort of trip for me.
Yeah.
To sort of trust that I could sort of, not be married to any particular outcome, but trust that the outcome was going to be really magical regardless.
Give into the moment, into the song.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who played keyboards on that?
An Austin guy, Matt Hubbard.
That's what I thought when you said
go
Matt, Hubbard. Yeah, Matt's a really good friend of mine. Yeah. I love that dude.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And he came in at the perfect time, man. So how did I meet him? Oh, Chris Bell, who was our engineer, introduced us to Matt. And it's funny because he came in on day 3, I think, of tracking. And we were at a moment, there's a song on the album called The Pity and the Pain. And it's it's like in 6/7 time. It's a weird time signature. And there's an argument we're having about the time signature, and Brady didn't want to play the time signature, and Doctor was demanding we did. And that was a debate. And it's a sensitive tune. It's sort of like the one sort of fairly pure autobiographical song on the album. It's about the breakup of my marriage. And so it's emotional for me to begin with. And there's a whole lot of tension around that song, and we weren't getting it. It wasn't happening, and the groove wasn't there. We were arguing, we were pissy, and Matt showed up right in the middle of all that drama, and we're like, "Hey, man," and we just sent him right to the Wurlitzer, and like, "Here, play with us right now," and he ended up just providing glue for that song. And the original demo of that song, it's a guitar lick. There's a guitar hook on that song you hear later on, but it began with just a guitar hook and the vocal. And on the final recording, like the first almost minute of that song is just me and Matt. It's just me and the world. It just became the grounding for that song. And his presence, man, he's just so he's so quiet and so he's almost on the spectrum in some way, he's just very and he's just sort of gets in his own little, world and just lays his stuff out. He's so intuitive, and without saying a word, he just sort of, makes himself at home. It is really, really magical.
Yeah.
His solo on $27 is amazing. That's the one I say, Brother Hubbard.
Yeah. Great
solo. God, great player.
Amazing solo. He's gold, man. That guy's vibe-wise he's a fucking monster player.
Yeah, and sweet. And he and the Doctor really got along too, in particular. We were looking forward to playing with him. We're gonna do some gigs together, and then all this stuff got blown up. So we're hoping we can play with him live at some point.
Yeah, but man, I mean, doing this record seems like that it's a special record for you.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Not that the others haven't, but it seems like you're in a place right now with this group of people. There were plans in place, I'm sure, to go out and tour.
Oh yeah.
I mean, what? Yeah. How did this change what you were doing?
It's just the natural evolution, right? I mean, it's all a journey. I think that it's really allowed me to sort of bridge my past and my present. When I first started playing blues, I've had sort of 2 musical lives. I had this sort of singer songwriter, Americana life, and I was, a little bit of a fish out of water in that scene. I mean, I sort of came to the Americana scene way early, and it was a very white scene, still is for the most part. And I was singing these sort of Americana songs about Black Harlem Renaissance. I mean, yeah, it was. I think it was just too much too soon for that world to make sense of what I was doing. People talk about those albums now with me. I did an album called Harlem, and I get a lot of people coming around going, "Oh my God, that album!" But at the time, no one gave a shit about it. Yeah. Because it was just mixing too many languages and too many words. Anyway, and then I started doing blues, and I felt really at home in that music. And it was really a great moment of self-discovery for me. But I was sort of I was, my first blues albums, I was just sort of, trying to do my version of Muddy Waters thing, or my version of. I was sort of, I wouldn't go as far as I was being it was a copycat thing, but I was sort of like, playing homage to these, late Chicago, 20th century blues guys who I loved, and trying to do my version of their thing. You know what I mean? I hadn't fully found like my voice in that world, and I wasn't concerned with bringing my singer-songwriter voice into it. And so, with the Brotherhood, what's happened is through the nature of the collaboration, it's allowed me to really find my voice, and sort of the kind of roots artist that I want to be. And so, and I've been able to sort of pull some pieces from my past into it, and I've been able to sort of define, blues on my own terms. And so it feels like, oh yeah, that's us. That sounds like us. There's nothing else that could sound like us but that. Right. Someone wrote about it. Yeah, how it feels authentic. And it is authentic. That. Yeah. And it feels much more authentic. I was inching towards it on the last album that breaks it down. Yeah, for sure. But even that was like me trying to figure out. I was trying to do my version of Freedom Songs and my version of the Staple Singers. Right. My version of Curtis Mayfield. Yeah. But it's sort of this is the one where it's like, oh wow, that's us. It doesn't sound like anything else. It sounds like us. And it's pulling from all these things that I was dabbling in before, and it's made this really unique whole. And that couldn't have happened without them. I wasn't getting there on my own. You're right. Yeah, I can totally understand that. And the step that you took with this record really did. I know that one of the challenges when you're doing something like blues is to make it your own. Yeah, like to take this style of music and run it through the meat grinder of you, and what comes out is you. And I feel like you guys really achieved that. There's times when you go to like sort of a traditional song, like the Counting Down the Days. You know what I mean? Like that comes out. That's like, what you're hearing when you hear that. But there's other songs, the song right before it, that song, Her Letter, it's not a blues song. You know what I mean? In the way that you think it is. But it is. But it's I actually was thinking of like Robert Johnson and like, Come On to My Kitchen when I wrote that. But I can't play like him. And I can't sing like him. So it ends up turning into like some kind of like, wannabe, John Prine song or something. But I think that it's tricky with blues, man, because it's like, I agree with you saying what you're saying totally, in that, the challenge for a blues artist is like, how do you take this musical form, which is inherently limited? And that's the beauty of it, is that it is elemental and it is simple. And people mistake the simplicity with ease. It's not an easy thing to play, even though it's musically simple, because you got to lead with your heart with it. But how you take this thing and sort of make it your own without sort of being overly crafty, right? It's at the same time, like blues fans are traditionalists, man. They don't want a ton of reinvention. I have found, and so I think that it's a delicate balance of like how are you sort of reverential and carrying this tradition forward at the same time avoiding making it a museum piece. Right. Exactly. And it's like, it's really, really tricky. And even with Stranger Than Today, the opening song on the album, like I want that to be the first song on the album because it really like says who we are. Right. If anything, it's sort of like has all these disparate elements in it. It's that song, but it opens up like an 808 drum machine. Right. 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 Like, oh my God, we're going to get killed. We're going to get, like the blues fans are going to like, the minute they hear that, they're going to turn it off. Right. But they haven't, and I'm really grateful for that. Right. And I think that, and the song's in part about Little Walter, so there's a bone there, I guess. But I feel like I've been pleasantly surprised that people have understood what we are trying to do. And that we have, we very much are, fans and champions of the blues at the same time, want to see this thing, live and breathe and have relevance, today, because, the blues crowds get smaller and smaller every year, man. They get older and older every year. Yeah. And, there's gotta be some regeneration going on. Yeah. And I mean, I applaud you that Blues or Not Blues, you guys made an incredible album.
I mean, really incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it.
You should be. How did you come to music? Like, there's a lot to your story. I have a finite amount of time, I was told. So there's a lot out there about you. Your dad, is your dad still alive, or did your dad pass?
He is. Unfortunately, it's dementia.
Okay.
But he is alive, although not all with us.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that. I'm glad he's here.
Yeah.
Your dad is Wally Famous Amos.
Correct.
And your mother was a singer who had hits and everything, Shirley May, and you made a beautiful record about her. You know what? I'm really glad. Can I just tell you this one thing, Shawn? I'm really glad that, like, on Friday evening, I decided to, instead of waiting till when I woke up this morning to do all my research about you, for some reason, I just started reading some stuff about you.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden, I spent the last couple of days listening to records, reading essays, and just really moved by your story. And I mean, it's amazing. And I'll put links to that Cookies and Milk scenes from the 70s childhood so that people kind of get a sense of this thing. But you grew up like in show business. Your dad was a manager and producer, and you were running around the A&M lots and stuff like that. What was it that you called? Did you call Herb Alpert Herbie?
Herbie baby.
Herbie baby.
Herbie baby.
So when did you come to music? Like, when did this?
I came to it relatively late, man. I mean, I was always creative as a kid. I always wrote. I mean, that's the through line. If there's any through lines, it's me as a writer. I mean, from my earliest memories, I always wrote and little poems, little rhymes, parody songs. I've always found writing to be a source of comfort and exploration, and it's always been the best way for me to express myself, the most sort of accurate way for me to express myself. But I wasn't musical. I was a super sort of, I wasn't ADD, but I was very like, just, I was hyper, and I couldn't. I took guitar lessons. I quit after a month. I took dance lessons. I quit. I took every lesson imaginable across every sort of art form, and got bored with all of it, and just never showed a real serious, passion towards anything other than writing. And then it wasn't until I went to college where I picked up saxophone because the woman I was dating at the time said I'd look sexy playing saxophone. Like, good enough for me. and I found I was really intuitive. I intuitively just got the instrument. Like, I took lessons, but I was faking my way reading. I was pretending I was reading, but I couldn't. I sort of understood the instrument, and I joined a band in college playing sax. I left college. I went to film school, and I was again pursuing writing, screenwriting. Came to LA, joined a band, like a cover band, because I was the only one who knew all the words to the songs. I mean, I loved music as a student of it. I listened to music my whole life, and so writing my own stuff and listening to other people's music were my two biggest pastimes as a kid. I had the headphones on with a double gatefold vinyl, and I just would spend all day listening to albums. I mean, I didn't watch a lot of TV. I listened to albums. I had a huge record collection. I ride my bike down to Tower Records on Sunset Boulevard and, go through the bins all afternoon. I mean, that was my playground. So I was very, very steeped in music. I knew a lot about it. I studied it without knowing I was studying it. But it really wasn't until after I got to college where I took myself seriously as a singer, where I realized, oh, wow, I can sing, and then that led to, songwriting, and I picked up guitar just because I wanted to figure out a way to write my own songs, and sort of went from there. But relatively late, I certainly was not the teenage kid in my room noodling on guitar all day long.
Right. When did you, like, what were you listening to? You said you were listening to everything, but like when you decided to start pursuing it, what were you?
I listen. It's funny. My listening is sort of reflective of like how I grew up and like the things I write about in that essay I wrote over the weekend, and the Cookies and Milk thing, where I sort of had like this like classic rock, singer-songwriter thing in one ear, and I was a lover of Paul Simon and Bob Dylan and Neil Young and all that classic 60s 70s songbook stuff. Was in one side, and then the other side was James Brown and Motown and Sly, and
Right,
sort of
right.
this sort of version of like sort of proud semi-militant blackness,
Sure.
and those are sort of the two things that were going on in my musical head. But I love I love pop writing, and I love the thread with all that stuff is I was always motivated by things that were largely storytelling driven and lyrically driven. I always listened to lyrics before the groove. I always had like a short patience for like the extended jam. I get really bored. Like, what are the words? So, but yeah, it was sort of, and in particular, I mean, I love Pete Townsend. Like that was sort of, like the Quadrophenia album is probably like my favorite album of all time, and like literally saved my life as a teenager.
Wow.
I mean, and I loved Elvis Costello for so many years, and
saw you covered Peace, Love, and Understanding.
Yeah,
did a great job,
yeah. Thanks. And I love Joan Armour Trading.
Oh, yeah.
Black British, songwriter, singer-songwriter. I love Joni Mitchell. I mean, so it's sort of like this like really super sensitive, sort of introspective, folky stuff, and then aggressive music, but underlying the aggression is like this vulnerability. So what I like about blues, I've been doing these spoken word readings on Instagram Live, and last night I read the lyrics for Manish Boy, the Muddy Waters song.
Yeah.
Which is a song of sexual bravado, whatever, but it's also like I'm a man. I mean, it's like the chord, like it's like that's what I love about the best blues stuff. It's like it's sort of like this braggadocio that's sort of there to mask an underlying vulnerability, and that's sort of like that tension is sort of what I've always like responded to in music.
Well, that's innate in us, in our animal DNA.
Oh yeah,
like the peacock, like the we're just animals when it all comes down to it.
Totally, man.
Yeah. So when you set out, were you like playing like coffee shops and stuff? Like how did you start off that solo thing?
I started off in a band. I joined the first band I joined was, we called ourselves Earthmen. And then we changed our names to Lucky Sun, SON. And this was sort of like in the, I guess the early 90s. And so the Sunset Strip scene was happening. And so we played all the Sunset Strip clubs, like, the Roxbury and the Roxy and the Whiskey. And we played the Troubadour down in Santa Monica Boulevard, and, China Club. And yeah, I mean, all those clubs, we were part of that sort of circuit. And we were just sort of like, always just missing out.
Sure.
It's like I remember Hootie and the Blowfish got signed like in 91 or something, and the guy who signed was actually a friend of my father's from back in my father's record business days, and he was sniffing around us, and I was like I was a black front guy in an all white band, so we're gonna be like the next Hootie and the Blowfish, and then we never got signed. So there's always sort of brushes with like the label exec, the A&R guy, and we played that game for too many years to that I care to remember. And it never happened, never broke, and then that band broke up, and then I performed solo under a pseudonym called Whitey McPherson. Just like this and if you dig deep, you can find some Whitey stuff out there. But I had my face painted blue. Whitey was like a combination of like Lenny Kravitz, Sly Stone, and Cab Calloway, and like and I had like straightened hair, and I had this blue face, and these tight like silver pants, and the skin tight. I mean, it's like ridiculous. And and I did that for a while, and we played the LA club scene, the Mint. And I mean, I was an LA club rat, for years and years and years, and just that's how I sort of cut my teeth. And you name a LA club, but it's a folk club or a rock club, and I played it, and it just and I stopped. I did the Shirley May album, which you talked about, in 2005. My mom committed suicide in 2003. She was severely mentally ill, and so I did this tribute album to her. And,
beautiful album, by the way.
Thank you.
Really?
Yeah, I'm probably but it broke me. I mean, it was sort of like I thought I was done after that. I'm like, I'm done making music. I can't do it anymore. And I was just sort of burnt out with the near misses with some kind of success, and albums that were critically acclaimed, but no one bought them, and I was sort of stood up, and so I started producing other people. I got into A&R and worked with other artists.
Became a suit.
And that Yeah. I mean, and I loved it, man. I mean, I got to do Solomon Burke's last 3 albums. I worked with Matthew Sweet and Stan Hoss.
Yeah, that's so
He was
awesome.
in brass band. I mean, I'm proud of my resume as like my credits as a sort of producer A&R guy. It was just as creatively satisfying as anything I ever did of my own. I mean,
Right.
I had no problems with it at all. But then the record business fell apart, and so I started doing other things, and then the blues is what sort of drew me back into music again.
Yeah. So you also you have like a digital marketing company, is that right?
I did. I mean, I saw that was through the detour I took. When the music business fell apart, I'd done A&R and sort of producing at a label called Rhino Records,
Right.
Which old reissue label, and then there's a spin-off company called Shout Factory.
Right.
And so with both of those labels, that's a part of the music business that's very marketing driven, right? It's like you're not signing Lady Gaga or
Right.
or Lizzo.
Repackaging, reissues.
You're repackaging previously released stuff, and so it by definition is a marketing exercise, right? Like, how do you convince people to buy something they've already bought before, right?
Yeah.
So I learned a lot about marketing. I must learn more about marketing than producing working at those labels.
Yeah.
And so I got interested in marketing. It's sort of a creative discipline, and so that led me into sort of the world of marketing. It was at a time when Facebook and Twitter and the iPhone and all this stuff was coming around, and people were learning this new world order. And so I was sort of at the ground floor of that. And so I started a digital marketing company, and then that was like my world for like 5 years. And it was fun. That was a suit world. I mean, then I was, and it was great, and it was heady. And I went all over the world, teaching companies how to tell their stories on these digital platforms, and it was a lot of fun. But it was also really corporate and really soul sucking in a lot of ways. And I just wanted to get back to my creative head more. And so and then, like I said, the blues sort of bit me in the ass, and hasn't let go.
What an amazing journey, man.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride, man.
Yeah.
It's been a wild ride.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for it.
Yeah. I'm grateful you're here. I'm grateful that there's someone like you out there making music.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
Have you ever written a book? Is there like a book I didn't find out there?
No, the cookies and milk thing that you read,
Yeah.
that was put on Huffington Post, was going to be the start of a memoir I was going to do. And just writing those few chapters for Huffington Post sort of was like enough. I'm like, okay, that got out of my system. I'm actually working on a kid's book right now.
Oh, really?
That hopefully will come out in the next year or so. That's sort of it's sort of a semi-fictionalized version of me as a kid growing up in a cookie store.
Okay, cool.
And so I'm working on that. But I'd like to write a book. I've written screenplays, I've written songs, and I've done a lot of essays, and I'd like to write a book before it's all over.
Damn.
So we'll see.
Well, I anxiously await that book. What's on the horizon? Like, I was meant to ask you, sorry, when you were talking about that you did the digital marketing stuff. Are you the one that sort of produces and puts together those videos, your quarantine videos for you and the Brotherhood?
Yeah. I mean, the fun part I think it's true for any independent artist, right? I mean, it's like, it's part of the joy of the time we're living in right now, right? I mean, whereas on one level, the economic model's completely changed, and so many artists are, not making as much money as they used to. But on the other hand, the gatekeepers have gone away, and the barrier of entry is like really low for anyone. And I think the artists who are the most successful, whether they be Jack White or to Beyonce, are the ones who really embrace taking hold of all the creative reins of their musical life, right? So it's like, you got to write your song, you got to record your song, but then what's the video, and what's the tour going to be like, and how are you going to use your social media channels, and what do you have to say, and who's going to give a shit? And so I love all that. I mean, I really embrace sort of the full range of all of these sort of these palettes. You know what I mean? There's just so many different palettes to paint on, and particularly now, not being able to tour.
Yeah.
It's a real challenge. How do you stay in touch, with your fans, and how do you sort of stay engaged, and how do you maintain having something to say that anyone is going to give a damn about. And I struggle with it a lot, but I love, I went to film school, like I told you. So, I love visual media. I mean, some of my best friends and my biggest sort of, heroes are photographers, and filmmakers. And so I love hanging around, visual artists. And so, we have a lot of great video content that I'm really proud of. And a lot of the videos that other people have produced and directed. And, I guess I've produced them all, but, lately I've been directing more stuff myself. So the quarantine videos are sort of, my creations. And there's a video for Stranger Than Today that my daughter's in, and I directed and filmed that. And it's been fun to sort of just roll up my sleeves. And
is that the one where you're in the car?
Yeah, it's actually a road trip to Austin.
Yeah.
It's a road trip from Dallas to Austin.
Nice.
Yeah, caught a special moment between us. She'd just come back from college, and we were sort of that video, more than I even thought it would, sort of caught a moment in my relationship with my daughter where we were rebuilding our relationship, in the wake of the divorce with her mother, and she stepping out into the world in first time as a student in college, and it's just you really sort of captures the sort of the fragility of our relationship, and also the depth of it. I love that little video.
Yeah,
so,
it's beautiful.
Happy.
Yeah. Well, man, I want to hear more from you, like musically, read your writing. This is
thank you.
It's really been great digging into your music and into your life, which sounds kind of creepy, but it was done as research.
I gotcha.
And definitely, like, man, stay in touch. I'd love, like, when people start playing again, I would love to come see you guys play.
Yeah, look forward to seeing you in Austin, man. I miss Austin. So
yeah, man. Is there anything? 3 hours away. I know there's a lot of stuff we didn't cover, but also I have to thank you for whatever segue we got into talking about the record. Oh, because you were talking about Frisco, and you made the record outside of Austin, and then that was because that whole entry to the thing, I was like, well, how am I going to get back to the album now? So thank you.
Takes a village.
You co-hosted the show.
Please.
Yeah.
I was in good hands.
Yeah. Well, dude, thank you so much. People can find you at ShawnAmos.com. It's the Reverend Shawn Amos and the Brotherhood. Their brand new album, Blue Sky, is out now. Videos, all that stuff. Find it at ShawnAmos.com. And thank you so much for doing the show. It was a real pleasure meeting you.
Oh, thank you, man. I love the conversation.
I'm a big fan.
Appreciate it, man. I look forward to seeing you in person soon.
Yeah. Thanks, buddy.
I keep the faith.
You too. The Reverend Shawn Amos from the Reverend Shawn Amos and the Brotherhood, their latest album, Blue Sky, available now wherever it is you stream and download your jams. Find them at ShawnAmos.com. What a great conversation, man. What a fantastic meeting that guy. I'll put links to his essay, Hiding in Plain Sight, that came out last Saturday, and his notes from the Rev section of his ShawnAmos.com of his website. And also I'm going to put links to his Cookies and Milk Scenes from his 70s childhood, another amazing 4-part essay about growing up in Los Angeles with his mother, Shirley May, and his dad, Wally Famous Amos, and hookers and drug dealers that knew him by name. Great story. Great guy. What a great conversation, man. Get out there and check out the album Blue Sky. It's absolutely gorgeous. His bandmates, the Brotherhood, Brady Blade, Christopher Thomas, and Dr. Roberts, all there. Go to ShawnAmos.com. And gang, don't forget when you're out there checking out ShawnAmos.com, you can find us and find our podcast wherever it is you stream and download your podcast, be it Spotify, YouTube, TuneIn, Stitcher, Overcast, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you find it. New shows all the time. Okay, thank you so much for listening to the show. Let's listen to the rest of this song, Troubled Man, from the Reverend Shawn Amos and the Brotherhood, from their album Blue Sky. This song also features the great talent Ruthie Foster. I need to get her on the show sometime. Still have never talked to her. I need to get her on the show immediately. Have a great weekend, whatever it is you're doing, gang. Let's get down.
Now you gon' come a troubled man.